Howdy, humanities at Shasta College. Hope you're doing okay. Well, the end is near. This is our last week. Uh, Probably make one more video for you guys on Thursday to say adios and good luck and kind of sum up the whole existence of humanities. I know we had a shortened semester, but thanks for hanging in there. I'm grading the papers. I went through quite a few of them, so the last 2 days. But I got a ways to go. And please keep this in mind. The class technically ends this Friday or so, and it takes me 7 whole days to do the final grade. So to calculate and make sure I read all the papers properly and all that good stuff. I have 4 other classes, or 3 other classes rather. So no excuse, but that means I'm grading a lot of papers. So have patience on that final grade. And we're in the final stretch. There is no more extra credit. If you haven't done the assignments, you're kind of out of luck. Not kind of, you're out of luck. And get your assignments in. If you didn't hand one in, you get them to me by this Thursday. If it's late, better late than never. Yes, you will lose points. Get it in. Send it to my email, rexhaas@yahoo.com. Okay? So you have one more chance if you didn't do some of the assignments to do them. Okay. Yes. I know, but I'm working, kid. I'm literally doing a lecture right now.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're never having lights on.
Because I'm on video right now.
Oh.
I'm on a Zoom class. I just put it on pause.
Sorry.
I got to get back to it.
Sorry, Rex.
So no big deal. See you when I see you.
Do you want me to come back this weekend?
Yeah, this weekend's good.
What time?
After my nap, 6 o'clock. Go ahead.
Sure.
See ya.
I'll close the door for you.
Thank you.
Keep that cold air.
Yeah, there is no cold air. Sorry about that interruption. Where was I? Get your papers in. Even if they're late, I'll take them now. They're going to be minus several points, but at least you'll get some points. And mail them to the email I just gave you. Okay, other than that, we're done. Except for if we're in class right now, you're still showing up. So I assume you're watching these or not. Anyway, today we're finishing up cinema. I teach a whole 17-week course on cinema, and we go way deep into movies. And on this class, I can only do a week or two, so we can't go that deep. Surface. Hope you guys watch that documentary. Your test. Hopefully, you took the test. I think it's due today, so get those tests in by 11 o'clock tonight. Hope I made sense to you. Hope you enjoyed it at least. But that film covers a decade or so of some great Hollywood films. So now I'm going to cover what's left in brief. The 1980s, we saw, if you watch the documentary, we saw a huge upswing in what they call big budget B movies. With endless sequels. We had Superman 1, 2, and 3. Then we had Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4. We had Rambo 1, 2, 3, whatever. And then later on in the decade, in the 80s, we had Batman. That they're still doing Batman. And then the 90s was more Marvel. Now Marvel just about controls everything that comes out of Hollywood. We'll talk about that too. Why that is. Anyway, but the 80s was a weird time because we switched presidents from Jimmy Carter to Ronald Reagan, who was a real conservative dude, ex-Hollywood actor, not a very good one, by the way, but ex-California governor. Everybody loved Ronald Reagan except for some people. And in the wake of his presidency, there was a lot of disruption in the arts. He doesn't care for the arts. And so in the music fields, what we talked about 2 weeks ago, punk rock came out. in a direct response to not just Ronald Reagan, but to Margaret Thatcher in England. Was like the punks were rebelling against the status quo. During this time that Reagan was in office, this term yuppie became a big deal. Young urban professional. And that meant somebody who was working for money only. No, the 60s ideals were over. Nobody wanted to live on Woodstock Nation anymore. They wanted to live on a nice loft in Soho and drink good wine and eat good food. And so they sort of sold out for the money. And things were very shut down and uptight and conservative, which is a good for the arts. If you paid attention to this class, John Basquiat thrived during this era because artists always thrive in conservative times. They do because they have something to rebel against. But Hollywood is a corporation like anything else. They want to make money. They don't really care about getting a message out there or if the people even like the movies. They just want your money. They're pretty cutthroat that way, and so that's what they went after. Then independent artists, there's a few of them out there. People like David Lynch, who directed some great films in the 80s, Blue Velvet, Wild at Heart, and some not so great films like Dune. He was not the right director for that one. And then Jim Jarmusch, who was a hipster from New York, who directed Down by Law, Mystery Train, Stranger in Paradise. These are, I would call them independent films. They weren't financed in Hollywood. Hollywood wouldn't get near them. But somehow he still makes his way. He's still making films. He's my age, and he got a career going. His last movie came out about 2 years ago. I don't know the name of it. It's a zombie movie. Bill Murray and Adam Driver are cops in a small town and zombies. It's kind of a black comedy. I haven't seen it yet. I'd like to see it because I always enjoy his work. He made a great vampire movie 8 or 9 years ago called Only Lovers Left Alive. It's way different. It's not a gory blood fest. It's about two hipsters who've lived for 400 or 500 years, and they don't want to murder anymore, so they drink synthetic blood, but then their supply runs out, and they're forced to go back to their old ways if they want to continue to live. Anyway, so Jim Jarmusch is still doing relevant work. There's John Sayles, who was mostly a screenplay writer, but he made The Return of the Secaucus 7, Matt 1. During this time, it was a fertile time for him. He would make his money selling scripts to Hollywood, and then he'd put that money into his independent directorial movies that weren't not Hollywood at all. And Spike Lee started coming around. There's time, and She's Got to Have It. African American director from Brooklyn, who is a major cultural icon now, but he wasn't then. His movies upset the apple cart, but they always had a humor about them. And so white audiences and African American audiences both related to them. So there's filmmakers out there doing good work, but it's not as easy as it was in the golden era of that documentary I made. Hopefully you guys watch for your squiz. So the 80s was weird. We had Goonies and Gremlins. You probably love that stuff. That's okay when you're 12. Try watching Goonies when you're 50. It's not quite the same. Then Top Gun with Tom Cruise being macho, whatever. And that was a huge hit. They just made the sequel this year, actually. Tom Cruise is 59 or something, and he's still in good shape. He's Tom Cruise. He's flying that jet. Not really, folks. He's an actor acting like he's flying a jet. But I think Tom really thinks he is that pilot. I do. He takes himself very, very seriously. And he's made $1 billion for Hollywood. They love Tom. Because his movies like Mission Impossible, they are just endless sequels and then make a boatload of money, which is really the name of the game. Maybe it's always been the name of the game. I like to think not. The old moguls in Hollywood, the Warner Brothers, Metro Goldwyn Mayer, they really believed in storytelling of the people and cinema and stories. They believed in that, not just a formula that they just cranked out, or that we would have 50 Ground with the Winds. We'd have 100 Citizen Kanes, which we don't. They didn't make a sequel to any of that. No movie copied those movies. They just made another new movie. That was unheard of. The sequel thing really started in this doldrums of the 80s. Okay. But even in doldrums, good things happen. Late 1980s, a film festival by the name of Sundance changed the game. It was a film festival called U.S. Film Festival, and Robert Redford, the actor, bought it, took it over, and changed the name to Sundance because of his character, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. And all of a sudden, 88, 89, Sundance Film Festival became a great place for independent filmmakers who nobody knew, directing their movies, filming them on low budget cameras, 16 millimeters before video, so we're not doing digital yet. They have unknown actors. A lot of time it was the people's friends, and they made movies. And then they had the festival in Park City, Utah. If you've ever been there, it's a beautiful, beautiful ski resort town, about 15, 40 miles up the road from Salt Lake City in the mountains, where the wealthy people love to snow ski. That's why Redford put it up there, because he's a skier. And every January, Sundance is on, except for the last 2 Januaries. It's been all online because of COVID. So it's a different film festival, like everything else. But a movie called Sex, Lies, and Videotape came out, and it changed the game because it looked like kind of looked like a Hollywood movie. The subject was not Hollywood. And but it kind of walked and talked like a commercial film from Hollywood, and it was sold at Hollywood. It was sold for a lot of money, and Steven Soderbergh, who's still making movies, Ocean's 11, 12, 13, whatever he makes now, he gets to do. Was on his way as a director. People who came through Sundance who became famous, people like Quentin Tarantino, would be nowhere without Sundance. Other people like Kevin Smith, who did Clerks, and maybe you've seen Dogma, maybe you've seen Silent Bob and Something J. I don't care for his movies because I think he's sort of a hipster slacker filmmaker, but that's his audience, and he knows how to make a movie that's aimed at his audience. And Richard Linklater, who did Slackers and Dazed and Confused, is the same way, from Austin, Texas. Robert Rodriguez came out of Austin, Texas with El Mariachi, then later directed Desperado, and now he mostly directs kind of big action films. And he's still based, I do believe, in Austin. He has a movie studio there. So he never went Hollywood totally. So the independent filmmakers, foreign filmmakers like Peter Almodovar, Women on the Verge of Nervous Breakdown, Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, Volver, had a conduit through Sundance. If your film got into Sundance and distributors showed up there to look at it, and they paid out big bucks for some of these things. Blair Witch Project, which came out in 2001 or so, was made for very little money, $10,000, $15,000, and it was sold for $1 million. And that sounds like a lot of money, I know, but the people who bought it made all the money, because worldwide it made about $20, $30 million, and that's who makes the money, the people who buy the movie. So the dream is you could get your friends together, get $30,000-$40,000 together, get a camera, and go off and make a movie. That's what I did. I made my film God Drives a Pontiac in 1992 for $30,000, and it played in maybe 15 film festivals around the country, not the big ones, the B ones. We came close to selling it, but we didn't ever sell it, so we never made our money back on it. We did make some video sales and things like that. And then so we started immediately making another one. We raised money by going after people in the community, dentists, lawyers. Hey, you want to make a movie? Donate $5,000. We're still shooting on film. Now everything's changed with digital. There's a movie that came out a couple years ago called Tangerine. It was all filmed on this exact iPhone 6, and it looks great, folks. You can look at it on YouTube. It's a tough subject, done very well. It's about transvestite prostitutes working in Hollywood and the ins and outs. It's actually really well done and quite funny. And so that's what you could do with the cell phone. And that changed everything yet again. See, innovation, technology is being upgraded all the time. And so then a new art movement will begin. In the 90s, an art movement coming out of Denmark called Dogma 95 began, where these filmmakers got together and they said, we're going to strip down all the artifice of Hollywood films. And in fact, I'll make you guys look at I'll post a video on there, Dogma 95. Tell me what you think about it. Maybe you've seen some of these films. Yes, they're subtitled, but they changed the game again. And then all of a sudden filmmakers are seeing what they were doing and how they were doing it. And they go, I could do that. It doesn't seem so, it's not Star Trek or Star Wars or X-Men, which most of us can't do. But we can put together something like a Dogma film with your friends. Small, simple story, interesting. You got to keep it interesting. Don't bore people. And so the 90s was mostly film festival time. Besides Sundance changing everything, there's a Telluride Film Festival in Colorado. And then there's the big ones like Toronto. And Europe's always had film festivals, Berlin, major Cannes Film Festival. These are major film festivals, but mostly established, big budgeted films with movie stars get in there usually. Robert De Niro started a film festival 20 years ago called Tribeca Film Festival in New York City. Just about every city's got a film festival. We have one here in Reading, Sundell Film Festival. There's one in Ashland. I don't know what they call that. Almost every little town has a film festival because it draws people into the movie theater and draws the filmmakers there. When my film was playing around the country, I went to half a dozen of these things, sat on panels, gave speeches. I looked like a success story for a minute. Anyway, so the film festivals of Sundance changed everything again. And so now the global filmmaking is more possible than ever before. We've got great films coming out of South Korea, Spain, Africa, South America. And these are small, brilliant stories because Hollywood has lost the ability to, they don't even want to tell a small story. I mean, I mean small, I don't mean special effects, laser driven space operas. They're not interested in that. When Robert Rodriguez, after he sold his movie, they offered it, Hollywood came knocking and they said, we want to give you $10 million, which is a big deal in those days, about 1996 or so, to make a movie. And that bothered him. His last movie cost $8,000. So, and he said to them, I tell you what, give me $10 million, I'll make 10 $1 million movies. And they said, no, we don't want that. We don't want that. We want one $10 million movie with a nice fat movie star and some good special effects. They want to spend it all on one movie. So he was a contrarian all along. Then he made the sequel to El Mariachi, which was made for $7,000, called Desperado with Antonio Banderas. It's the same story, except for on $10 million budget. It's a little different. Special effects, camera work, fancy camera, everything. Great soundtrack, all the stuff that you can't do on $7,000. So the the desire to tell your story with a camera is still strong. There's more there's more opportunity than ever before. Look at TikTok. I mean, yeah, a lot of that's silly. Yes, folks, a lot of it's silly, but they're doing something. Look at YouTube. It's a great platform for telling your story. Are you going to make money off of it? That's the iffy question. But you might get noticed if you get enough hits. You might be able to raise money and impress people. If you have a desire to tell stories with a camera, I still do. I'm working on a documentary right now. I hope to finish this year. We'll see. So just keeping the dream alive is very possible now with very little money and a cell phone, smartphone, whatever you guys want to call them. Anyway, it's still out there. Desire to tell a story never stops. Ingmar Bergman told stories until he died at 88. They all kept going. Right now, Jean-Luc Godard, a French filmmaker who was a genius at one time, is 92 years old right now. He's working on a new film. His breakout film, Breathless, started what they call the French New Wave. Came out in 1960. And so this desire to tell a story visually is still very much a part of our culture, our collective culture of who we are. Your movie or the movies that you watch now reflect what's going on in the culture. What would reflect that? What's going on in the culture right now? A ton. We got dirty politics, right? We've got the war in Ukraine. We got trans rights. We got gay rights. We got racist issues in this country. We got violent issues. There's a ton of stuff to make your movie about. And you can still make it funny also. They don't have to be grim. It just depends on how creative you are and your desire to see it through. Most people give up too soon. I'm going to shut up right now. I'll have a little finished thing to say. I probably won't say it until Thursday. So get your papers in. Keep watching movies. Look at art. Never stop looking at art. Create some art. And remember, we are our humanities. The humanities are who we are. Don't let wars and ugly politics define us. Let our paintings and our music and our films and our dance, let that be our defining moment. See you next time.